What is up, guys? How's it going? Matt here again for a slightly later sit down Sunday. Sorry for the delay, it's been a busy day. But we're here now. So we are going to finish off, we are just finishing off last stages of a commission. Just going to get that finished up. So yeah, if people are working on some hobby on this Sunday evening, come and say hi. Let us know what you're working on. If there's people working on the new Shadow Spear set, which half are you working on? Or if you haven't got it yet, which side would you pick, or are you going to pick when you pick it up? Chaos or the new Primaris Marines? I myself will be going Chaos. Daniel Johns, evening mate, how's it going? Apologies if I look tired. I did a 10k run this morning. Pretty worn out now. Been painting the rest of the day. And we may get interrupted by my kids, potentially. So that could be interesting. It all happens here of an evening. So yeah, we're hopefully just going to get the last bits of this finished off on the stream. I'm just on to my last 10 bloodletters. I'm just going for a tabletop finish on these guys. Yeah, so all good in the hood, my man. Just been watching the GT finals. Oh yeah, I only I went on earlier on Twitch and noticed that they were doing the like a podcast segment, and I could see in chat that something to do with one of the guys was ill. Is that right? One of the guys who was playing was ill. But I haven't managed to catch anything over the weekend. Because to be honest, I totally forgot that it was on until the last minute, and then, like I say, went on, and it was just the they were doing some podcast segment, and like I say, I could see in the chat that people were talking about one of the players had fallen ill or something, or wasn't very well, so they'd had to cut the stream a bit or something. But what won it, or what was doing well over the weekend? I wanted to see what had been doing the rounds. I was supposed to be getting some painting done today on my own army list for an AOS tournament next weekend, but that's gone to the wayside. So that'll probably be a late night tonight to start getting that done. If anyone tuned in last weekend, the title of the video, or if you watch it back on YouTube or Facebook or wherever, was the title of that was "One Down, 139 More to Go." That's still the case a week later. I've still got about 139, 140 models to paint. I do have a couple of the bigger models though now actually built and started to be airbrushed and stuff. So we are getting there with that, but that'll be a busy week this week. So trying to get this commission finished off ASAP. So that we can get back on track with that. Someone at the tower, he beat Lawrence. Oh, Lawrence, yeah. Got into game 6. Ah, okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, I might have to go back and watch some of the coverage of that, I think. Like I say, I totally forgot that it was on this weekend. I lose track though now, like with Warhammer World events, because they're just on all the time. You can pretty much guarantee, yeah, okay, every weekend there is something on. But yeah. So talking about tournaments and events and things, is anyone going to the 40k tournament that the UK Games Expo is running? It'd be cool to find out what people's thoughts are on this, because I don't know if anyone's been to the Games Expo before, but I mean, if you're a fan of board games or miniatures or anything like that in general, it is absolutely brilliant. Runs over 3 days, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in like I think start of June. I think this year it's like the 31st of May, 1st, 2nd of June. You know, loads and loads and loads of companies there. It's a really, really cool weekend, 3 days, and they run quite a lot of events, loads of different tournaments, and lots, you know, like things like X-Wing and all that kind of stuff. And there used to be a couple of independents that ran like a 40k tournament, and Glasshammer last year ran, I believe it was the first Star Wars Legion tournament. So we did that last year, and then but then like 40k and things like that and AOS had gone by the wayside a bit. And then this year noticed that the events were made for a 40k and an AOS tournament. Now I didn't look at the 40k like, you know, like the weekend layout and stuff. I didn't look to see what, you know, what the sort of how the games were for that, but like for the AOS one, we play, I believe, 2 games on the Friday, 2 games on the Saturday, and 1 game on the Sunday. Now I've been to the Games Expo for a few years, and I think the first year I went, they were still running the 40k and Age of Sigmar tournaments, or maybe not AOS at that time. And I was saying to some people that I knew playing that the trouble with it was you don't really get to see the expo much. You know, with playing in the tournament, it's like, okay, here's half an hour for lunch, you know, and you've just got to quickly go, and then you come back, start your next games. And because the 3rd day is the Friday and the tournament didn't start till the Saturday, unless you went on that extra day, you pretty much had no chance of seeing any of the other expo stuff. So you didn't really get much chance to buy things, you didn't get much chance to see the stands, see the new games, all that kind of stuff. So I thought that this format for this year of being over the 3 days was actually a nice change. It meant that you're going to should get enough chance, certainly on the Sunday, to see a lot of the expo, as well as playing the tournament. Plus, it means that it's not going to be quite so rushed over the days. You know, you'll play your games and you'll still have plenty of time left at the end of the day. So even if you didn't want to one day, you know, go around the expo, you could go home or you could go do something else or whatever you wanted to do. But then I've actually seen quite a lot of people sort of complaining about the Friday. Not so much that it's over 3 days, but just that, well, I suppose it is that it's over 3 days, but that with the Friday, of course, if people can't get time off work or things like that, then of course now they can't play, and people being so used to playing over a weekend, so it wasn't so much the format of it being split up, you know, over more days. It was the fact that it's like, well, yeah, but in doing that, I'm not going to be able to get there. So I haven't looked actually how many tickets have sold. Chris, I'm going to the Games Expo. Yes, you are. Currently, it's you, me, and one other person. So yes, we are going to the Games Expo. So yeah, as that turns out, it could end up just being the 3 of us playing 5 games. But yeah, I just wondered if anyone else had even seen that there was a 40k tournament on at the Games Expo. because that could maybe be, you know, wherein lies the problem, is that no one even knows that it's on. Because I haven't actually seen GW advertise it. But if people do get a chance, go to the Games Expo. It is awesome. I mean, imagine like Warhammer Fest, but on the level of just like for all games, everything, board games, RPGs, just random miniatures to use for things like Dungeons and Dragons and all that kind of thing. You've got bits companies there, companies that make bases. You've got independent sellers and traders selling off second-hand stuff. You've got a second-hand area where like you can trade stuff that you can basically, you put in old games that you want to get rid of. You say a price that you want for it, and then it goes in and you get to go and have a look around. You can pick it up for, you know, for a bargain price, and there usually is some pretty good stuff in there. But it is just, certainly like for me, I went mainly because of all the miniatures. I think the first year I went, I saw the Drop Zone Commander table, which they'd built like a bit like a diorama board of like a ruined city. And I mean, if people know the scale of Drop Zone Commander, they've got all the drop ships and everything, all, you know, all over this really cool like ruined post-apocalyptic sort of I Am Legend style city board. It's just absolutely awesome, and they had like a to scale sort of like mothership with about 150 drop ships in it, and it was just absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. And it was like and the downside to it in a way is that then you go, I don't even care about the game, I just like the models, and you just end up, well, I certainly end up just buying a ruck of models. Paddy, is it in the UK? Yes, it is. It is at the NEC. So I suppose if you were coming from further afield, it's, you know, really good access. But yeah, it's at the NEC. Last year it changed. It was still in the NEC, but it changed around a little bit. Like they used to be in the Hilton at the NEC, and then they actually moved into the NEC halls, and I would assume it'll be like that this year because it's got so much bigger now than what it was. So yeah. Oh. I don't know if you can hear my kids killing each other in the background. But as I say, we may get an interruption. That's the only downside to this being slightly later today. We will be... Oh no, we won't be back to normal next weekend because I'll be at the tournament. So the one thing I might be able to do next weekend, I mean, I know a lot of people on here are 40k fans, but for anyone who is an Age of Sigmar fan or just a fan of gaming in general, I might try actually, and I'll probably get some coverage on the page from the Throne of Skulls AOS event at Warhammer World next weekend that I'm going to, so I might do something on that as for the Sunday segment. Just it'll be sort of about the time that this would normally be on, which is about 12:30. We'll probably be finishing up game 1 or game 4 on Sunday, so that'll probably be the schedule for next weekend. But so Sit Down Sunday won't be on as normal next weekend, and we've still got the painting videos to come on Tuesday. As usual, there will be a free one and one for the Elite page, and I'm going to start doing a bit of a more in-depth series of videos, I think, where we're painting entire models and entire units, because that always seems to be quite handy, and if we can get some of the models from Shadow Spear, that would be pretty cool to get painting some of those. Only over the road in Ireland, haven't played tournaments since my teens, but considering going to one, making a weekend of it. Yeah, man. I mean, obviously it depends, you know, what sort of level you want to play at, but I mean, like certainly Warhammer World events. I mean, you know, I don't know if you've been before or not, but I mean, if you wanted to sort of try out some tournaments and sort of see what it's like, all the Warhammer World ones are awesome. You know, they sell out for a reason. You know, all right, they're like £65 for a weekend ticket, but you do get your lunch and stuff included. So everyone I've been to there has been awesome. And then I mean, things like the Throne of Skulls, like next weekend, are again even, you know, a bit less competitive. But obviously then you've got things like your GTs like there was this weekend and all that kind of thing, so you can really choose at Warhammer World, which is nice, what sort of level of play you want to go for, but you can, you know, it's all still in that one place, so it's not like, oh well, they only run competitive tournaments, so if you want to play in that sort of environment you're going to have to play competitive or whatever. It's pretty cool that they do, you know, a nice variety of levels of play. But yeah, man, get back into it. I was always a bit skeptical about tournaments at first, but realised that actually, like anything, I suppose, the issue's not so much. I think people confuse like competitive with like power play, win at all costs, and I think even that though, it still boils down to the issue is not so much the fact the tournament is maybe built to be competitive or the event is built to be competitive. It's more that it's how you play. You know, if let's say you go and you do have a really decent list and you want to play competitive, or you're there to win, etc., and you come up against someone, which usually happens, who isn't there for that reason, they're just there to play and whatnot. I think the important thing is in those situations is to not give off the vibe that actually, you know, that I think quite a few people believe of tournaments, is that it's like, oh well, it's just, you know, play to win, crazy lists all the time, and it's about being a bit more, you know, humble with players like that. So I was always a little bit skeptical, thinking, oh god, you know, it's going to be way out my depth, and you know, players are going to start getting frustrated because there I am, like, you know, a new player or whatever, and not used to that kind of environment, whereas they're like seasoned veterans of tournaments and things. But to be fair, it wasn't like that at all. And the first tournament I went to, I went with somebody else's army, an army that I didn't play either. So although I knew the rules of the game, it wasn't my army. I never played with it, and you know, it was a real bit of a baptism of fire like that. But all my opponents were friendly. It was just a really cool, nice atmosphere, and that was a fairly competitive tournament as well. And so, you know, I think it's one of those things that it's more just down to the individuals as opposed to being put off by thinking, oh, it's going to be a competitive event or something. But yeah, man, if you're only over in Ireland, it's not far at all. But yeah, I mean, if you can get to the Games Expo, that is well worth a trip. Well worth a trip. So, has anyone picked up a copy of the new Shadow Spear, or in the process of, or going to pick up a copy? I know I will be at some point, and going for the Chaos side, I think, and adding to the ranks of Chaos models that I've got there unpainted in my pile of shame. But you know, adding a few new cool sculpts is always good to that. So we haven't got too much left to do on these guys. It's pretty much finish these blades off. Blades and horns, and then it's tongues, the bronze, and then bases. So this commission came in through Glasshammer from someone needing this unit doing of 30 blood letters, which is for actually Glasshammer's St George's Champion tournament, which is in end of April in Telford. So if you haven't got tickets to that, you can grab them on the website. Yeah, so wanted this unit painting up for that to a tournament ready standard. So you know, the typical 3 colours based, etc. We do take on commissions, and I will be the one doing them should you decide to go down that route, but it seems fairly popular, I think, these days for people, you know, especially, well, like in my situation, you know, trying to get my army painted with 140 odd models in a week. I'm just lucky that, you know, I'm doing this full time, so I can make some time throughout the weekdays. But otherwise, you know, I would have to say, right, okay, I'll have to use a commission painter then to paint half of the army or something at least, so that I can paint the other half to get it done. So yeah, if anyone's interested in that, you can inquire on the website, and we can get that sorted out for you. But this is the primary reason we end up, or I end up, with very little of my own models painted, because of course I'm spending all my time painting someone else's. Although it is great fun, certainly beats an office job. What else have we got? Chris, easy to get to as well, only being at NEC. Yeah, that's it. Access to the NEC is really good. Daniel, I struggle to paint. Love the building part, but when it comes to painting, it kills me. Yeah, that's. I think that's pretty common. We were talking about that last week. That it seems that you know, you get that split of people who like the painting but don't like building. Some people like the building but don't like painting. Some people like neither, and some people like both. I mean, for me, it's I prefer the building and painting. Not so much. I mean, I love playing the game and all that kind of thing, but it's more that I like being creative with it and taking something and going, right, okay, well, that's cool as a stock model anyway, but what could I do to it? Like, you know, I love converting models. I love making, you know, new models and things like that, especially for things like D&D campaigns, or you know, using as alternative models for board games and stuff. You know, just making things out of bits. You know, I love doing that kind of thing. So, but I can certainly see how it's, you know, how it's daunting for people. And I mean, I've even watched quite a lot of videos on, you know, how to make models out of bits, or how to, you know, how to convert models. But I still think you've got to have that bit of an eye beforehand to think, right, I know a rough idea, it's just more I need to know how to execute it, or maybe I need to see some more models to see what other bits I could get access to. But I think you still have to have that initial vision of, well, I've got a rough idea in my head, you know, of what it's going to look like. I think, you know, I think sometimes if you can't see that at all, then you're really going to struggle to come up with ideas. And I think some people find that with painting, that, you know, they struggle to sort of figure out how to execute the colours they want, or, you know, some people say it's nice and easy just going, right, okay, yeah, there's a dry brush. But I've even seen people just struggle with things like that. They just can't see the concept of it, and, you know, can't make that connection between them doing it and what the effect is supposed to be like. Becoming St. George's champion, just finished off 2 Helverins, building the Paladin as we speak, all to go my Blood Angels. Awesome. Awesome. Well, we're doing a little mini AOS tournament as well at the same time over the weekend, so I'll be involved with running and sorting that out, but I'll certainly be having a look over the weekend at the armies and stuff, so I'll be sure to look out for it, man. And at least if you don't like painting that much, like using knights and things like that's pretty good. Nice big models, big plates of armour, etc. is pretty good. Now, I have just got to change my water a second, guys. So, I'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay, we are back. We are back. Dan, yeah, literally tabletop standard for me, that's it. Yeah, but the thing is, it's like even with this, and I've often thought sometimes about doing just a little sit down video about tabletop, because I hear that a lot of people as well, you know, you see things online of pro painted, high tabletop, display, tabletop, you know, all this kind of stuff, and some people, or some, like even some commission painters have, all right, they're usually roughly within the same sort of area, but some of them have a different opinion or view on what their classification of tabletop is, but certainly like doing, you know, like sort of 3 colours and based kind of thing usually means you've got enough diversity on the model that it breaks the model up. You can get your base colour on, so like your main armour colour or something. You can pick out the weapons and then maybe pick out just, you know, one more detail that's going to make it stand out. You know, and a lot of tournaments are like that. But it's surprising actually how nice you can make a model look, even just doing that. And I think it just comes down to just being like nice, like clean and precise. You know, of just going, well, just take, if you're only going to do, you know, a little bit, you're not going to do too much, you're not going to do crazy highlights and, you know, object source lighting and all that kind of stuff, then it's just, you know, be consistent, and don't overdo it either. If you're trying to keep it simple, you know, the reason you're doing that is because you don't want to spend too much time. So don't even overcomplicate thinking about tabletop. Just go, okay, I'm going to do, you know, this, and this, and that's how my model's going to look. And as long as it's consistent across the army, then you know, it looks really, really cool then. And certainly when it's all set up, it looks even better. And the biggest difference to your models as well is the base. You know, like I've got all these models at the minute, which I'll be basing in a second, and it will make them look totally different when they're based. You know, it just pulls the whole model together, I think, which is like something I've tried to do with all my own personal things, and that I've tried offering you know, when I'm doing commissions for people, is spending a bit of time on the base to make it look really good. But yeah, man. I mean, you know, there's no shame in just going tabletop. No shame at all. I mean, I was hoping that my army for next weekend I was going to get looking quite nice, but I think at the minute it will have to be what we can get done in the time frame. I think once I can get the big models out the way and I know that they're sorted, I can do the basic troops and stuff. You know, they're not so bad, even, you know, if they're not done to quite as high a standard. But we are almost there with the black for the horns and the blades. Then, like I say, I've got the tongues on these 10 to do, and I've got the brass, a couple of brass bits to do on some of them. Then I will just add a little detail on the eye, just because blood letters aren't that difficult really to do something on their eye, because they're quite pronounced. And then we'll base, and they're finished. And then that's another commission out of the door. So anyone else got any other tournaments and events planned? Coming up soon? Anything that's going on? I didn't get to play much last year in many events, so this year I've decided, right, try and get a few in. And I think I'm booked up now, one every month until June, I think now, which should be good. I just need to stop changing my army in between every tournament and just run with something consistently. And then I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in now, constantly having to paint 100 plus models every time. And also, I know I've mentioned this before, but we are still in the process of setting up a double camera setup. So normally, if you watch the tutorial videos that we do, I've normally got the camera and an overhead there, so you can obviously see what I'm doing. And although this is a bit more of an informal sit and chat session, you know, we want to set up a camera so at least you could see, you know, if I am painting something, what's going on. So we are still in the process of doing that. And also, guys, like I say every week, if you've got suggestions for content or topics that you want to see, obviously come and join us in the chat. But if you know, anything that we'd need to sort of prep or set up beforehand, then just let us know on our Facebook or on the chat on here, or drop us an email or something. You know, just for some ideas, if you guys have got any ideas for content or things you want to talk about, or you want to see certain models painted, or you've got questions about painting or modelling or things like that, then we can do our best to provide. Last one for the black. and we are pretty much there. Okay, that's all the black on those guys done. So now we can get back onto. Actually, I'll do the tongues on these guys next, and then I will do the gold. Check the stream. So yeah, the sort of, I don't know if it'll pick it up, but the sort of overall, no, it's a bit dark and that, but the overall look of the model, just gone for like a purplish tongue, like I say, black horns, black blade, and then like a brassy gold on the hilt of the blades, and on like the horns, and some of the bloodletters have got like the corn icon like brazed into their skin, so I've done it on them on there as well, just to add a bit more variation on the body. Restarting a guard, Astra, whatever suggestion to go with, although I hate painting, I like having squads. Alan Hancock's, what's up, my man? Guard. Pretty much bodies on the board, isn't it, with guard? All I ever seem to hear about is bodies on the board and mortars. I still think like Tank Company looks awesome. Just having a ruck of tanks just looks really cool. But yeah, bodies. Trouble is, I suppose, it's at the minute as well, it seems to be a lot of, you know, it's still quite a lot of super armies with that I see, like with guard. Although I'm pretty sure the in the LVO was the last game. Did the guy have pure guard, pure Astra Militarum? Ogrins seem to be pretty good as well, which is cool because I never used to see them before. So I think Ogrins seem to be pretty cool, and they're cool models as well, which is always good. Alan, my blood pressure, that's what's up. Nothing new there then. What are you working on, Al? Painting something? Or just eating, or... He did, yeah. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's quite cool actually to see that you know, pure guard armies and stuff, rather than the constant, oh well, you know, I'll just run a load of bodies and then sweep in some other guys. So so yeah, Ogrins would be pretty cool. And I suppose as well, like, it depends. Someone I know has been using the Forge World Hellhound, which I think, like they was saying, is a lot better than the normal one, or you know, has slightly different rules and stuff. So you know, things like that. I still think, like I say, tanks and stuff are just awesome for guard. I think I just love the look of it. On with the blueberries. Oh, what did you pledge this time then for painting, Alan? I can't remember what you said you were doing. But you were painting 40k models, finally. Well, they're saying that I haven't exactly painted a 40k model outside of a commission for quite a while, so... Although I did paint a Gene Stealer cult model the other day, so that counts. It was one model, but, you know. Oh yeah, so thinking about like new GW releases and stuff. People seen that new the new Warcry game that's been previewed. It's coming out in the summer, which looks pretty cool. Been quite a lot of cool been a lot of pretty cool little games and expansions and things advertised lately, which is nice. Almost makes me like think back to, you know, like all the old blister packs and things like that. Just bringing out individual models every now and again, you know, is cool rather than it being like huge releases and that kind of thing. Sorry, I was reading the chat then before. The Lieutenant from the Conquest subscription. Oh, okay, yeah, that's what you were painting. And even Chris managed to paint a Space Marine. You're just sprayed solo. Yeah, but that's Chris's level of painting though, Alan. You know that. It's like street art, graffiti. It's just, you know, get the spray cans and spray it on and that's done. Which is fine if people want to do it like that. So you're painting them as are you painting them as Ultramarines then, Al? I still don't know what to do with my Space Marine stuff. I'm tempted to just get rid of it all and like trade it back in for the new Primaris things, but I know what would happen. It would just end up going on new Chaos models, especially when, you know, everything's out, like the Havocs, and when you can buy the Obliterators in their own box again and all that kind of thing. That's just where the money will go. It won't go on Primaris Marines. It'll just get eaten up by something else. But I am tempted. Wait, they don't do blisters anymore? I checked out shortly before the Eye of Terror back in 2000. Oh man, you have missed a lot. Well, it kind of depends now. They do, like, They do in a way still do blisters, but they don't. It's not like the way they used to do. So, don't think I've got an example lying around. No. Or have I? Hang on. No. So now you just tend to get individual models like heroes and characters and stuff. There you go. No, that's not it. But you get them in like in a single sort of clan pack, like plastic pack. But you don't, obviously, because they've now moved away from like the lead models and all that kind of thing. You don't get like things like the 2 orc big shooters and stuff like that, and you know, the random chaplain. You get those now, obviously, because they've all been resculpted. You get them now just in plastic packs. So it's still, you know, it's still similar, but it's not like the good old days of, oh, I can buy, you know, like a command group specifically, or it's and of course with prices going up, it's certainly not even close to what it used to be like when you used to go in and see all the pricing bands like A to H or whatever it was. You could pick up some individual models for about £4 and things like that. Yeah, it's not that level of blister anymore. You just basically, you know, rather than an individual character or something being in a box, they just put them in a plastic packet instead. Long gone are the blister shelves. That used to be the best part for me when I walked into a GW. I'd look at the boxes and stuff, but especially when you were a kid, you know, the blister rack was your pocket money aisle. And that was where, you know, most of us when we were younger ended up, because it was like, oh well, main box sets were if, you know, birthdays and Christmas. You'd have to be very lucky to get, like, you know, many of the other boxes throughout the year and stuff. Especially like when you're kids and you just want to play with them. And so, you know, blisters were your way forward. And it was surprising, really, after a while, how many, you know, if you bought quite a few blisters, how many models you could still accumulate. There was quite a big range of stuff. The one thing I do wish they still did, and I've spoken to like GW staff about this, and they reckon it's because of cost and everything else, but the ability to buy bits from GW, and I think they'd be quite surprised. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think they'd be quite surprised how much they would actually sell like that. You know, because, okay, if you're in the unfortunate situation that something goes wrong with a box set, which, to be fair, for the plastic sets is very rare. It's usually any of the resin sets or Forge World kits. You have to get in touch with them and say, you know, there's a problem, can they replace, you know, a spare part or something, and providing you can give them like the order number, or like, you know, the sort of proof of purchase, then they'll send you the bit, no problem. If you're lucky enough to be able to visit Warhammer World, and you tend to, if you like look at the model there and then, like when you've ordered it and you open it up and check it, if it's in time, they can sort it out like same day, so they'll go, oh, okay, yeah, that's no good, they'll get you another one, or get another one made up and things like that. So like that side of it's really cool. But on the rare occasion, like I've had an occasion once where there was no instructions in a plastic box set, and the trouble with that was I bought, because of them being shrink wrapped, like at first they were like, well, okay, you know, you've opened it, but it's like, well, yeah, of course I've opened it, because that's how I've discovered that they're not in there. But also, because of them being shrink wrapped, I've gone, right, okay, they're taking them home, they've gone on a shelf, and they've gone on a shelf for a while, got rid of all of the, you know, got rid of the receipt and all that kind of stuff. and then they were like, oh well, we're a bit reluctant to give out the instructions because you haven't got your proof of purchase. Well, let's be fair, on a sealed box, you would assume that it's like, well, yeah. I mean, I've never had it, and I've bought thousands of boxes. I mean, even if it's like for commissions and stuff, I've handled or dealt with thousands and thousands of boxes, and it hadn't happened. So you would at that stage you'd be going, well, yeah, of course the instructions are in there. So that was a bit fiddly. But like just being able to access or buy bits, like you used to be able to do, because I mean they used to do it, and that was back before they had, like the business now is far bigger than it was. Like in the old White Dwarfs, when you used to be able to look in the back and you could buy each individual part of like a Chaos Chariot and stuff. And the thing is, the plastic for them is dirt cheap. I know it's awkward as far as the way everything is done on the sprues, but it would have still been done that way then. So it's like just getting access to bits would be amazing, rather than having to go to like third company sites who then just sell them for extortionate amounts. Although at times I do often wonder, what would GW be selling the bits for, because some of the boxes are priced up accordingly given how many extra bits are inside there, although it still works out at pence per individual item. But it would just be nice to have access to go out, I just want to, or do like they've started doing, and just start bringing out like head packs. That's the big thing for me, like for Space Marines or for anything Age of Sigmar, like heads, different helmets. And that doesn't take too long to do, and just go, okay, you can buy, or different posed arms. So you bring out your tactical squad, and then maybe 12 months later you could bring out 2 different packs. One of where they're slightly different positions, or, you can remodel the arms and stuff, and then some for the heads, and that just means that you're going to get a bit more added flavour in your army, and a few more, different bits than having to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to buy this kit to get those extra heads I need or whatever. I remember saving for months and getting a Forge World model, and it was horrible model lines everywhere. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some of them are really bad. And the thing is that the worst thing is, like, I mean, I bought a Sikaran tank, and the flash, or the parts that it's still attached to, like the mold blocks, and it was so big that like I couldn't clip it, so I had to saw it off. But then actually trying to file it down so it's nice and flat and everything else is a nightmare on really thick resin. And I had it with that, where one of the parts was slightly bowed, but the piece was so thick there was, you couldn't do the typical reheat it and repose it yourself. Excuse me. It was so thick, there was just no way. And again, and that was a bit late really for me to sort anything out about it, but excuse me. But I mean, they are pretty good with things like that, like now if there is a problem, they will sort that kind of thing out. But I could always afford a blister pack. Yeah, you could always, there was always something. The cool thing about the blisters, like now you look at the characters, they're all roughly, you're looking at probably on average anywhere from £12 to £15 up to some individual models in those kind of things can be, up to say £20-25 for a hero size model. I mean, back then I remember like you could buy Wraithguard individually, and I can't remember how much they were, but like you'd maybe look at that and it would be something like £7 or £8. But then you went all the way down to, like £4 maybe for like a skink priest, or a couple of skink chameleons and things. And although they still, like at Warhammer World, you can still access them, and you can still buy them, some of those kits direct online. But it's not the same because they come in like the white Citadel boxes, so you can't see inside, and that was always the cool thing. And sometimes the thing I used to like about the blisters was you'd be looking at the you know, you'd be looking through the blisters and you'd be like, oh, okay, that's really cool. But then you'd stand there for about 10 minutes going, well, where does that go onto that, and how does that do this? And I always used to like it that on the metal piece that used to go into the base, like, you know, it'd have written what the model was and all that kind of stuff. It was just really cool. I loved it when it was like that. Yeah, I had a Bretonia, Undead, and Dark Angel's army from the blisters. Yeah, that you could pretty much get, you know, entire armies from that. Blood Angels and Chaos Dwarves from them. Karanak with a piece missing, they sent a whole new model. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you know, they'll send you at times. It is easier for them, you know, providing you're giving them that proof of purchase. They'll just be like, well, we can't send you the bit, so we've got to send you the whole model. And that's what I argued with GW the once, going, well, your argument is you can't do bits because of cost, and I know it would be mass scale, but you're going, oh, we can't, you know, we can't source you that one piece, so we are just going to have to send you the whole model. And that's a lot more expensive than just going, yeah, here's a bit. And I mean, the Warhammer Studio used bits and everything for their dioramas and things, so it's not like they'd be going, oh, well, even if they have to like clip them off the sprue, it's not like they're going to go to waste. Didn't understand the concept of saving, ended up with a 10-man commissar squad. Yeah, you know. Why not? I think I've still got I've got a couple of scouts, the old metal scouts, with sniper rifles that came in blisters. I don't think I've still got. I did have a metal Inquisitor Kotiaz. Picked him up. But I think a lot of my other blister models have got. Oh no, I've got as well from Warhammer Fantasy. I've still got some Lizard Man, Saurus Warrior. I've got the Command. Like the Standard Bearer, Musician, and Champion. I've still got those kicking around somewhere. But yeah, that was the best bit. Like I said, I used to look at the boxes, but the best bit was going, yeah, we'll just go over to the blister rack, and then you dream of the one day when you could just ogle over the box sets as much as you do over those. And now we're at that time. Not that I'm still able to go in and just be like, yeah, okay, I'll take 3 of those and 4 of those. And sometimes I like to really depress myself and look through old white dwarfs and be like, oh, okay, that's how much that used to be. Like a Fire Prism Grav tank, like £18, and you're like, you know. So if you ever do want to lower your self-esteem, just look through old white dwarfs. It's great. Just, you know, really hammer home how much you are now spending on that same ancient model. Right, that is... Oh no, it's not. Oh, I was about to say that's all the brass. Sure, I might as well ask, what happened to Warhammer Fantasy and why did I hear the Lizardmen flew off in spaceships or something mental? Oh, you opened the can of worms. In short, GW pushed the self-destruct button on Warhammer Fantasy, introduced the end times, which was in the narrative, killed 95% of it off as you knew it, and then reintroduced it as Age of Sigmar, which initially was utter garbage. Now is fine. But the one shady thing, I mean, I like started playing Fantasy. That's when I first started. Well, not when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was a bit of everything, and I was probably playing or thinking I was playing 40k and stuff then. But I did have a bit of everything, you know. I had lizard men when they came in the paint set and that kind of stuff, and you know, and various Space Marines, orcs, all sorts of bits and pieces, and then obviously stopped. And then when I got back into it about 9-10 years ago, started playing fantasy, and yeah, really enjoyed it, loved it. Played quite a few games of it, built up some fairly big collections. A good couple of armies, chaos armies, some demons, big Skaven army, which is stupid given that now I'm doing Skaven again and having to repaint all those models, buy and repaint all those models all over again. So did that, and then I started playing 40k a bit more at the same time. They then instigated the end times, which just made everything mental, and then killed it off. But the thing I found annoying about that was they did this whole like 4-book series building up the end times, new kits, new rules for the end times. Here's these brand new books at £30-35 a book, all this kind of stuff, and then they just went, yeah, but now you can't use any of it. So that part of it was shady, and then so then they brought out Age of Sigmar, where like the old world had been broken into realms and things like that. Gave them a bit of a blank slate. They killed off some of the armies. Tomb Kings now no longer in use. They're gone. If you own them, there's still like some rules out there for them, but as a buyable faction, they're gone. Names changed, but they also changed for like licensing reasons, so now they can actually license all their names and copyright them all. So all that sort of stuff changed, and now Lizardmen are known as Seraphon. They're considered celestial demons, and basically the only ones of them that are left alive are the Slan mages, and they to actually bring all the units that like back in and stuff. Then they actually, all the Slans do is they remember what the army was like. So they like remember the Saurus warriors, they remember the Skinks, and they just remember them into being. They turn up, fight, and then if they do what they do, they just forget about them and they vanish again. So it is a bit mental. If you were like hardcore fantasy and that this is the lore and this is how the game is, now it would be like a 5-year-old kid with a Crayola pencils just gone, screw all that, and we'll just change it up entirely. But at least the game works now. Chris telling him about the horse and the beards. So for wacky rules, so when Age of Sigmar came out, initially it was just a garbage game, and there was rules that and this was on the War Scroll. So like as you see Warhammer 40k rules now and stuff, like there's they're called they're a War Scroll for Age of Sigmar, and it's just a block of that's what that model does, and it's a bit more concise and pulled together, easier to distinguish between units than the old books. They were just like the lists of what they did, and they all have like different abilities for units. And there used to be rules where like you could gain, let's say, so like for the beards that Chris is talking about, there would be rules where you could gain rerolls to hit and wound for units and stuff, which is a big deal. Gaining a reroll to hit and reroll to wound on a unit is a big deal. But you'd only get that if you had a more impressive beard than your opponent. Someone was paid to write that rule. So you would gain a reroll if you had a more impressive beard. Now the thing is, if they wanted to go down the route with rules like that, they could have put those into like open play. They could have made like a fun section for beer and pretzels. There you go. But not on the main War Scroll that people are trying to play match play games with. You had things that Fate Weaver for Tzeentch, the big demon, greater demon, he used to be able to cast a spell for free, providing you could say the name of the spell backwards without stuttering. That was a rule. And there was another rule, I can't remember what it gave you access to, but let's say the reroll hits and wounds. You'd gain reroll hits, and this was, you're saying about the Empire and the Bretonnians. This was for Bretonnians, and it was like the mad something or other. you could gain rerolls to hit for your Bretonnians if you pretended if you rode an imaginary horse. But if you spoke to your imaginary horse as well, then you'd get the rerolls to wound. Now I've just got this image. If it's not off-putting for people enough to imagine a room full of, let's say, 95% sweaty men over a weekend playing with nerdy little miniatures, rolling dice, and all these kind of things. If that, for people who were a bit like, oh, do I want to go into a tournament or not? Do I want to play in something like this or not? If that wasn't intimidating enough, now imagine those same bearded, hairy, sweaty men pretending to ride horses and talking to them. I mean, sometimes the odour's that bad in tournament halls that you can imagine it going to someone's brain. But still, this was mental. Someone was sniffing glue, yeah. Someone had definitely built a box of new models, put the lid on their shoebox. Then when they've gone back to paint them, opened it and been like, poof, I know, good idea. My beard's better than yours, I should get abilities for that. I mean, imagine, you know, you could end up playing against a kid. And being like, is this a joke? You know, I've got this rule. Or it would be funny though if like a 12-year-old had a better beard than you. And they're like, finally, get to use this rule. Oh, Total War Warhammer. Yeah, so the Total War series, like the PC game series, where they've done like, you know, pretty much every sort of historical war type there is, you know, Roman, Greek, sea battles, everything. They've done a Total War Warhammer. To be fair, is an awesome game. 1 and 2 is an awesome game. Just making like ranks and ranks and ranks of models, like huge armies, and fighting on them like on the PC and stuff. It is a really, really good game. Really good game. But I mean, you know, there's so many games now, like digital games and stuff for Games Workshop things. It's crazy. There's like, you know, like 40 apps that are different games, and there's just absolutely rucks of stuff out there. Which I suppose is all good, although some of them, it's, you know, you can tell they're just like reskinned games of other things. But the thing I want to know is, like, why it's taken so long to do things like Warhammer Film, or, I mean, you know, like you imagine like Game of Thrones, but for the Horus Heresy. I haven't myself, but I'd heard there was going to be a third. Yeah, yeah, I think there is going to be a Total Warhammer 3. Yeah, like you imagine like Game of Thrones, but you imagine something like with the Horus Heresy. You know, that'd be awesome. You know, that'd be really cool for something like that. Or, you know, like with things like Netflix and stuff now. You know, it'd be really cool to have a series. And the thing is, I mean, some people that would be, you know, used to be like, oh no, it's a bit too far-fetched. Yeah, but look at things, you know, like look at Star Wars and Star Trek and all that kind of stuff. I mean, Star Wars, let's be fair, as awesome as it is, alright, you might have Jedi, but you don't have Primarchs. I mean, like, it'd be, you know, you imagine all this kind of stuff, you know, like being in films and things like that. It'd be awesome. It'd be absolutely awesome. But maybe one day. I know there is supposed to be that film coming. You know, that trailer was shown of a supposed film coming, which does look pretty good if it's true. But so what time are we on, guys? Oh, we've been going about an hour and 10. So probably go for about another 10-15 minutes, something like that, for tonight. And then I can just get these guys finished off. So yeah, it was a bit mad with the end times and Warhammer Fantasy and things. It went a bit crazy. But I've got to admit though, now since playing like other games in Age of Sigmar and things, and actually understanding tabletop games a bit more now, I do prefer the new formats. I did like certain things about fantasy, like I liked the rank and file, I liked things how you moved, and I liked the different turn sequence, like charging at the start of the turn and all that kind of thing. I did enjoy that element of it. I think it would have been cool if they could have maybe like done that a bit more, where they just like streamline the rules a bit more, you know, make it, rather than having to work out strengths and toughness, you know, I wound on this and all that kind of stuff, because it does make it much quicker, but maybe still kept some of the nuances of fantasy on how like you moved and all that kind of stuff. That maybe would have kept it a bit more of a distant game from 40k to keep it new and fresh for people. But it's a shame as well, because like the fantasy models, I think, you know, arguably some of the best models that Games Workshop do, all the dragons and monsters, and you know, as much as giant killer robots and all that sort of thing is cool, you know, having giant war mammoths and, you know, stone constructs and all that kind of thing is giant squigs and all that stuff is awesome. You know, and they are really, really nice models. But I suppose they knew what they were doing, because it's all worked out in the end. We need to do an anime or like an anime, a 40k anime, or an OS anime would be sick. Imagine like Harlequins and stuff like that for an anime. That'd be amazing. What about Blood Angels come to Netflix? Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool. I'll have to check that out. There's a trailer. Oh, awesome. There goes my stolen idea for Rough Riders on Lizards out the window. Yeah, but you see, the other cool thing that I've seen as well, where people use a lot of the fantasy stuff and a lot of the Seraphon things, is Exodites, Eldar Exodites, on the back of like the Carnosaur and things like that, as count as fire prisms and stuff. That looks awesome, I think. But yeah, man, yeah, an anime would be wicked. Really cool. Really, really cool. I am surprised over the years that, you know, I know there was a lot of time when they weren't really sort of customer friendly. It was all about money and everything else. But I mean, look at the thing is, there's people I know who look at like Warhammer and stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, it's just ultra nerdy. And then they're like, oh yeah, but I can't miss an episode of Game of Thrones and that kind of thing. And you're like, well, alright, this is, you know, the miniatures is what made this, but it's like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. It's in essence the same thing, just with a different storyline, but it's still, you know, and look how like madly popular Lord of the Rings was. You know, and so many people who are like, I never knew what an orc was and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, well, this is just a way like to represent that, you know, and just see it as like a collectible, if you like. You don't have to play the game, but like just to collect the miniatures and stuff, like, which is what people used to say was the biggest thing about the Lord of the Rings miniatures, was people used to buy them to collect them. So wrong button. But yeah, you know, that's the really cool thing about it, and I'm so surprised that it hasn't happened before. Oh, we've got a rogue child.
No, I'm Oliver.
I know you're Oliver.
Why?
The top of your head's on the camera. You waving now and showing your cars. and that's why you don't put models by little kids. Well, that's perfect timing.
Daddy.
So I think, guys, with kids calling and coming up to finishing off these models, that's going to be it for this week. Like I say, usually this is on middle of the day, although it seems that for tonight we've actually had a more consistent amount of viewers. So is this sort of time, like 6:37, a better time for people on Sundays? Because if it is, then you know, we can always move it, because you know, I know people are busy in the day and stuff. You know, if this suits people better at this sort of time, then you know, we can always look at changing it and stuff. But it's always good to chat to new people. Been nice chatting to you, Dan, Paddy, Gav, Al and Chris, wherever they've disappeared to. Yeah, guys, so next Sunday it won't be on. Like I said, I might end up posting up from the Age of Sigmar tournament that I'm playing in at Warhammer World for Throne of Skulls, where we'll be taking the Rats, taking the Skaven along to that. So I might try and post something up, or do a quick video from there about that, maybe, just see how that's going. But then it will resume as normal Sunday after. If you do think the times should change, then, like I say, comment on our Facebook page. If you're not on Facebook, then just head on over to Facebook, search for Glasshammer Gaming, and we'll post up on there, or you can post up on there any thoughts or ideas for the stream and stuff like that. Fantastic stream, we'll be watching again. Got a lot of painting done without noticing. Awesome, cheers, Paddy. Yeah, and happy St. Patrick's Day, man. Yeah, that's the thing. This is literally just to sit there. I usually work better painting, just having some noise in the background, just chatting away, you know. And it's surprising how much you can get done. So if it's working, mate, then that's the main thing. But yeah, so it'll be a week Sunday. If you're not on the Facebook page, go check out the Facebook page. Dan and Manny do a lot of the 40k content on there. Do battle reports and all that kind of stuff. And on Tuesdays I put up 2 videos, a free one and a subscription service one, for our elite service, on like painting tips and things. You know, get if you know, if that's any interest of you, then you can always check out the free one. Always posts up on YouTube as well, so search for Glasshammer Gaming on YouTube, and that always posts up on there. But yeah, guys, thanks very much again. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining the chat, and we will see you again very soon. Take care, guys.